Are you struggling to get a band 7 in IELTS writing? If you are, then this video might just be for you. So let's begin. If you are new here, my name is Brick and I am a qualified English teacher from the UK. And on this channel, we cover everything IELTS related. So if this is something that you're interested in, consider subscribing. So according to the official IDP website, these are the most common mistakes that people make in the IELTS writing exam. So in this video, we will look at these common mistakes and we will look at what you can do to make sure that you do not make any of these mistakes. So let's begin. Okay, so the 7th most common mistake that people make in the IELTS writing exam is using surveys and research to back up their opinion. Now, this is a tricky one. Why is this a mistake? Well, remember, the examiner is only there to check your writing, okay? He or she is not there to check to see if your writing is authentic or if it's real, or to check your evidence, okay? So what that means is that although you can talk about past research and surveys to back up your ideas and opinions, the best thing to do is not to use this idea over and over again, okay? So for example, if you back up your ideas with some type of research in paragraph 2, that's fine, okay? But what you don't want to do is just continuously do it throughout your essay, because that will make your examiner think that you are making this stuff up, okay? Especially if you are not specific with your research. And by that I mean if you have not given the specific details of the research, like what year the study took place or who the study was examined by. Okay, now the 6th most common mistake is using inappropriate memorized language. Now, to be honest with you, whether it is inappropriate or not, really you should not be using any memorized language in your writing. I know there are some people who guarantee that you will get a high mark if you use specific keywords, but unfortunately you will not know what question you will be given in the IELTS exam up until the actual exam itself. So what that means is that the best thing to do here is not to use any memorized language. And also, from my experience of marking writing exams, it is very easy to identify which parts of the essay have been memorized, okay? What you want to do is just write in an authentic manner. Now, if you are struggling with your writing exam, the best thing to do is just continuously practice before your exam. However, when you practice writing, it is important that you get your writing checked, ideally by an English teacher, and if you can, by an IELTS coach, okay? They will know whether you are on the right track or not. You don't just want to practice by writing out an exam and thinking that, okay, that's my revision done. If you write out an answer, you don't know if it is good or not. So that's why it is always important to get your writing checked. Another thing that you can do to help make sure that you do not make this mistake of using memorized words is just look at model answers. Look at what a band 9 writing essay looks like. Look at what a band 8 essay looks like. Now, I have made a booklet of band 9 essays that I've written out myself, and I will put that in the description below if I can, okay? Now, the next mistake that people often make, and this is a bad one, unfortunately. We all make this. I'm guilty of this as well. Everyone does this, and that is spelling errors and typos. Okay, so as you may know, there are 2 types of IELTS exam that you can take. Okay, so one is the normal IELTS exam, where you go in and you would write out your answers by hand. The other one is the computer-based IELTS exam. So essentially they are the same thing, okay? The only difference is that one is on a computer, the other one is not. But the writing exam, okay, lots of people make spelling errors and typos. So spelling errors, what can you do to avoid making spelling errors? Well, you might not even know that you are making any spelling errors unless somebody corrects you. So again, if you can get your writing checked by an IELTS coach, an English teacher, or someone who is proficient in the English language. If you cannot get access to an English teacher or you cannot afford to get your writing marks, that's fine. I completely understand. What you can do in this case then is that when you are practicing at home, before your IELTS exam even starts, what you can do is write out your answers or type them on a computer. And if you use platforms such as Microsoft Word or Pages, any spelling errors, it will already be identified here, okay? So that way you will know, oh, here is where I made a spelling error, okay? Now, when it comes to the computer-based IELTS exam, the computers have a software which does not identify any spelling errors or typos that you make. That means that if you make a spelling error, if you make a spelling mistake, okay, it will not be highlighted. So what you should be doing then, in that case, actually you should be doing this whether you do the computer-based exam or not, is proofreading, okay? So what is proofreading? Proofreading is where you go back to the start of your essay every now and then. So maybe you've written out one paragraph, and then once you've written it out, you go back to the start and you read it and you just see if there's any words that you have misspelt by accident. Or if you're typing, if you've accidentally added an extra letter by accident. Now obviously if you have made these mistakes and you have identified them, just correct them, okay? Now it is important that you proofread every now and then, ideally after every paragraph. You don't want to write out your whole essay and then go back just to proofread, okay? If you do that, that's fine, but the best case scenario is where you proofread after every paragraph. Now, the fourth most common mistake, according to the IDP website, is presenting an unclear position. For me to explain what this mistake actually is, and more importantly, for me to explain to you how to avoid this mistake, we will have to look at this question on the screen. So let me read this to you. Some people believe that school children should not be given homework by their teachers, whereas others argue that homework plays an important role in the education of children. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, the instructions here ask us to do two things. To firstly discuss both views, so that's one side of the argument and then the opposite side of the argument. Then the second thing that they ask us to do is give your opinion. That means in your opinion, you should state which side of the argument you agree with, okay? So if you only present both sides of the argument, you haven't fully answered the question, okay? And therefore you would have not presented a clear position, okay? It is very important that you give your opinion, especially if it asks you to do so. And by doing this, you will get a higher mark when compared to somebody who does not present a clear idea. Okay, so again, one thing that you can do to make sure that you avoid this mistake is look at what a good answer looks like. So here is where we will go back to our model answers. So I will leave some links in the description below where you can check out some perfect or band 9 writing essays, and you can see what they look like. And throughout all of them, you will notice that all these candidates who have written out these answers, they all present a clear position of which side of the argument they agree with. Now, mistake number 3, and this is kind of related to the previous mistake, and that is partially addressing the question. So what does that mean? Well, partially means you only answer parts of the question. So for this example that I'm about to share with you, let's look back at this same question that we just looked at, okay? Now, I won't read this again to you, but a common mistake that people make here is where they only discuss one side of the argument and not both, or they discuss both sides of the argument, which is good, but they don't give their opinion. So the solution here is to make sure you answer all parts of the question. Now, to make things easier for you, right, what you should be doing is in your exam, just highlight or underline key parts of the question. So let's look at this question again, and I will show you which parts of this question I would highlight if I was a student taking my IELTS exam. So the first thing I would highlight is discuss both sides, okay? And the second thing I would highlight is give their opinion, okay? Or give my opinion. So that's the first thing that we can do. Now, the second thing that we can do is make a plan. So in your writing exam, right, for writing task 2, you will be given 40 minutes. Out of those 40 minutes, 5 minutes should be spent on creating a plan. And in your plan, you can just quickly make notes of what you will include in which paragraph, okay? So for example, you might just write paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just add a couple of bullet points of what will be included in each paragraph. That way, when you are writing, okay, if you forget what you're about to write, you can just look at your plan, because that would have covered everything. And hopefully by sticking to these two things, you will answer all parts of the question. Okay, now mistake number 2 is using the incorrect format. What does this mean? So often you might find people writing in an informal manner when they should be writing in a semi-formal manner, for example. Or for writing task 2 in the academic exam, you are expected to write in an academic format, okay? So if you use what I call text message language, for example, writing the letter U instead of Y-O-U, then obviously you will lose marks because you are not using the correct format, okay? Another thing that can happen is for the general IELTS exam, you might be writing in an informal way again, whereas what you should be doing is writing in a semi-formal way, okay? So make sure you read the question so you can identify which format you should be writing in, okay? Now, to make things a little bit easier, for the academic exam, doesn't matter what the question is, you should just always be writing in an academic format, okay? It only varies slightly in the general exam. So if you're doing the academic, there's not much to worry about. Okay, now the final mistake that people make, and this was labeled as mistake number 1 on the official IDP IELTS website, and that is not writing enough paragraphs. So that makes me ask, what is the right amount of paragraphs that you should write? Well, in writing task 2, you should be writing 4 paragraphs, okay? These paragraphs are the introduction, body 1, which is one side of the argument, body 2, which is the other side of the argument, and finally the conclusion paragraph, okay? So 4 paragraphs. Now, some people might write 5 paragraphs, okay? Sometimes that is okay, okay? However, in my opinion, I would advise you to always try to write 4 paragraphs, okay? And stick to that format that I just explained. Introduction, body 1, body 2, and conclusion. Now, if you've benefited from any part of this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, and share this video to somebody else who might be struggling with the writing exam. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.